The third round of salary and wage negotiations for municipal workers under the South African Local Government Bargaining Council, which started today, is expected to conclude on the 16th of August and also expected to be quite difficult. Samwu feels Salga's offer of 3.75% of an increase is an insult, which Salga maintains municipalities are struggling and cannot afford an increase beyond that figure. Reports have revealed that fewer municipalities can afford the sky-high salaries of their workers, which are also excessively high compared with similar workers in the private sector. Joining us for more on this is governance policy and political analyst Sandile Swana. Good evening, Mr. Swana. Thank you very much for your time this evening. If you were to speak to Samwu today, they would say the municipal workers' salaries are not excessively high, but what is certain is that some financially distressed municipalities cannot afford to pay the salaries. Your views on just the current salary issues at the start of the third round of the negotiations?
Thank you so much, Mbali. The salary increases are unsustainable on the basis that 86% of the municipalities in South Africa at this point in time are financially distressed, and 66 of them are severely financially distressed. So the money to do this is not there, and the municipal sector has been deteriorating in terms of its productivity, in terms of its ability to deliver services and to be financially viable. And as far as I'm aware, there are 2 municipalities that are strictly financially viable. The majority of the municipalities fall below that requirement.
When you speak of the 66, this is the number of municipalities that Salga has decided to exclude from the wage negotiation, something that Samwu has taken exception to, saying what we're seeing here is Salga that is looking to punish juniors for decisions taken by seniors, whereas Salga is saying, but you cannot reward mediocrity or dysfunctionality in municipalities. The optics just aren't good. Society cannot hear of municipal workers from dysfunctional municipalities that are going to receive increases.
Yes, so what we need to quickly acknowledge in this matter is that Samwu is an affiliate of COSATU and an ally of the African National Congress. So some of the people in Samwu are also office bearers in the ANC. And for the past 30 years, COSATU as a whole and Samwu in particular, relative to the municipal sector, this has been a buddy-buddy system where the ANC pays Samwu members to continue to support them. Because on the grounds of finance and on the grounds of economics, you cannot justify the fact that if you work for a municipality, you are paid 3 times for the same job that you could be doing in the private sector. The salaries are 3 times higher, and the productivity is nowhere near competitive. Instead, these municipalities are losing investors. So when they say that they cannot be punished for mistakes made by seniors, these seniors are members of the ANC, just like the members of Samwu, and they are involved in a conflict of interest, in a moral hazard, and they are looting the state. These are not wage negotiation. This is yet another avenue for looting the state.
You touch on salaries being 3 times those in the private sector as those in government. If we had to be a little more granular with those salary comparisons, just to give people at home figures, there's a report that has revealed that in one medium-sized municipality in the Western Cape, unskilled workers would generally take 250,000 per annum, which is around 20,000, while their counterpart in the private sector will probably take 80,000 per annum, which is around 6,000. So you've got 20,000, you've got 6,000. But then there are those, specifically the union leaders, that would say, when you are quantifying a salary in the private sector versus the public sector, you don't use the same formula. You would perhaps use seniority, and in the other sector, you might use productivity or performance, whatever it may be. Do you think there should be some sort of alignment here?
Unfortunately, when you go to university to study labor economics, There's no separate class for municipalities and a separate class for other economic students. Labor economics is labor economics. So the argument that you use a different formula in the municipality and use a different one in the private sector carries no water. It's mathematical nonsense and economic nonsense. So it must not be listened to at all. The other thing that has been raised is that the people who are in the municipal sector have got job security, which you can calculate a premium for that, which actually that job security should mean that there should be a deduction, because the ones in the private sector are facing greater uncertainty than the ones in the public sector. But we know at close range that it is virtually impossible to reduce the bloated staff structures of the municipalities. They are bloated as we speak. Not only are they overpaid, they are overstaffed and they don't do their jobs.
But organized labor has said that in most instances, they need to be, at least government needs to be a better example or an example for the private sector, especially when you speak of the low productivity and the difficulty that many managers have complained about, the difficulty to dismiss workers that aren't as productive, perhaps are constantly sick. You would find that organized labor will constantly state that they need to ensure, at least government needs to ensure, that it is difficult to dismiss a worker so that you don't have the private sector making it easy. Because if it was easy for government, then most certainly the private sector will follow suit and do exactly what they do to workers.
That is a complete misunderstanding of the concept of a social democracy and socialism itself, because I assume that is the philosophical basis from which they proceed. The unions should be working for an atmosphere of full employment. In other words, if you are working, you should not necessarily be afraid of being fired because jobs are all over the show. The only thing you need to be confident about is your competency, that at any time there are 3 or 4 employers looking for your services. Not that you have your job because you are protected politically and legally by the Tripartite Alliance, COSATU, and the ANC and the SACP, but you yourself are incompetent and generally unproductive. That is wrong.
So you're basically saying there's greater politicization in these negotiations than anything else. There's no productivity conversations, but perhaps political conversations. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you very much, Mr. Swana, for joining us this evening. That's governance, policy and political analyst Sandile Swana speaking to us.